Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to have you back if you're joining me again. And if you're tuning in for the first time, I am probably going to try to do a year-end show, maybe Saturday night. I'll see. I'm trying to get a couple people to join that have been on the show before. By the way, if anybody wants to be featured on the show, you can always contact me. Uh, Before everybody comes in, or while everybody's coming in, obviously, if you know my voice, I'm kind of sick right now, or sicker than usual, I should say. Everybody knows I have a classic Hillary cough, as they call it. But um, I am going to try a little experiment. Now, Bold Like a Leopard did not start on YouTube. It actually started as just a place on Facebook where I would just share my blog posts or things like that. And for a while, I was actually paying to what's it called, to spread my Facebook memes and things like that, to promote it. Was kind of a waste of money in retrospect. It did grow for a while though, and then suddenly, even with paid support, and this was when I had a kind of a job where I could spend a lot more time uh, doing things like that. I would make memes and whatever. Well, at a certain point, I ended up seeing that, yeah, Facebook is throttling my shares, throttling all my interactions. So I want to do a little experiment, see how bad it actually is. Now, if you're just joining, you can try this now. If somebody comes on and logs on later, reads or listens to this broadcast, go to my Facebook page and you will see pinned to the top. I'll show it. um, you'll see this poll, and it has America in honor of the new year. Tell us your favorite new gender pronoun of 2017. You have it with the like button, Mitt with the wow emoticon, twit with Eminem, and the laugh icon, and shit, which is the angry icon, and Rosie O'Donnell. So I want to see, please put in the comment section, maybe come back later, or just in the chat now. Go to the Facebook page, put your emoticon, whichever you're voting, and let me know if you voted, because I want to see if Facebook is actually, uh, if they're actually registering it, because there are many times that I don't get any notice. I have no way of knowing if my shares are even matter. And to be honest with you, in the past year, also because I've been more busy, so it's not Facebook's fault entirely, but I've become less invested in sharing things on Facebook. I've focused more on my blog, focused more on the YouTube channel, focused on all sorts of other ways to share my stuff. So in the meantime, I'm gonna try to, I'll you know, here's the window, so you can see that. And I'll tell you what, it's really become an issue for me that I think maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. Yeah, maybe the content I make isn't that good. Okay, there's always a possibility that I'm not actually, or I'm not spreading it correctly. But I do believe that certain things that I'm doing are being throttled by Google. Hello, Angel. I hope you had a great Christmas, because I don't really celebrate Christmas, but I hope you enjoyed yourself, saw your family up in Minnesota. I don't celebrate Christmas, but I guess I will watch Die Hard, so that's technically a Christmas movie. Um, Dean Kruger is also here, so welcome back. Um, I saw both. I don't know if I saw Angel, but I saw Dean for sure while watching the ABL stream. So if you just tuned in, yes, go to my Facebook page. You'll see the first publication is this poll, and I think we have we're ready to go into the other topics. Okay, so I'll start off with the Brexit because it's better to do it now than at the end when I'm going to forget and maybe be a little winded. I do have some tea here, but a lot of people in the United States, they don't appreciate why Brexit is important. And what they should understand is that by joining the European Union, the British were somewhat on the way to getting into one of the pitfalls that would have occurred to the United States had Hillary Clinton won, had I guess the Barack Obama administration been extended technically, because the European Union is ipso facto an infringement on the sovereignty of all of its member states. It infringes on them by levying taxes, by invalidating the borders, by coming down on by tampering with their legal systems, by forcing them to take in migrants. And to me, before all of this stuff with Donald Trump, and let's give him some credit, but before all of that, I was following this EU business, and I'll tell you what, it worried me a great deal that the sovereign countries of the world, and specifically Britain, were giving up their rights in order to join this body of unelected uh, officials and bureaucrats that would dominate their lives. And once it was earned, I thought that the political establishment would at least learn a lesson and say, look, we know that we can't continue to abuse the power all the time like we have been doing. We'll help build a new independent Britain, but that's not been the case. And in fact, it's startling if you're somebody who's been following the issue for a while. It's startling just how disrespectful the British political establishment is to the wishes of the people. Now, you see in the United States, this is something I always find ironic. In the United States, you'll see a lot of these people who are Democrats or liberals or whatever you want to call it, and they will say, you know what, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but they don't realize that by emphasizing the popular vote over the electoral vote, well, they're also look at some of the other decisions that have gone by popular vote. The vote on Proposition 8 in 2008 in California, it was approved by a 55 to 45% margin. That was the proposal that banned gay marriage effectively in California. Now, what was their reaction to that? Did they accept the popular vote? No. They went and essentially they went to court and they decided that what the people don't choose, the judge will choose. And they had all of those amendments overturned. What was called DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, was overturned. Now, I'm a person, don't really talk about it on the air. I don't support gay rights. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I think gay rights is an issue of personal taste, and I think it's stupid to require people to support something that they think they don't like. If I'm somebody that I hate the sport of cycling, I think cyclists are assholes, and I don't want them taking up the right lane of the road, then I'm not going to support cyclists. And it's the same thing with the gays. So, when they say, "Oh, we believe in the popular vote," no, you don't, because the gays are not popular. Okay, they are not. Obviously, the majority of the population is not homosexuals. And what are you going to do? Now, that doesn't mean that I have such a strong opinion that I'm going to go and stand with a sign like the Westboro Baptist Church. But you see the difference that I'm talking about. They think that they're on the side of the popular vote. But when the popular vote goes against what they want, they raise all hell and they pretend that the people are too dumb to know what the real choice is, and that's what happened in California, and that's what happened in the United Kingdom. And you can see here, Lord Heseltine, who was once one of the leading British politicians um, of the Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party over there is kind of a joke. And you can see that nice picture here on a different topic, the sex robots, which naughty you guys. We're not going to talk about sex robots today because it's not actually something I have a lot of knowledge on. Although I guess it's probably going to be more well known in the future. He says that he would rather support. Now we're not going to read through this, but Lord Heseltine said that he would rather support socialist Jeremy Corbyn as the head of his government than get Brexit. Now realize what that means effectively. What that means is that Lord Heseltine, who never won elected office or never won the prime ministry, was always one of these ghouls that was he's kind of like a John Kerry figure. Always was like part of the cabinet or whatever. Never actually won anything in his own right. maybe John Kerry's the wrong, like I guess more than John Kerry, maybe Eric Holder would be a better comparison. So somebody who's always close to power but never gets elected. That's Lord Heseltine in Britain. For those of you that don't know, those of you that are in the United States. But Lord Heseltine is basically saying, I would rather have a government of a person who lost last year's election, who has horrible ideas, Jeremy Corbyn, who's notorious, notoriously poorly prepared, has great rhetorical skills, very few developed programs. Doesn't really I mean, I remember that they decided that they would have a police budget that would have basically given their police officers like a salary of £26,000 a year or something, which is very low or something like that. Excuse me. So he'd rather support that guy who lost an election than support the popular will, which was Brexit, which won by a 52-48 split in the United Kingdom in 2016. That's the way they're behaving. The political establishment. There's a person who's technically on the right, technically a conservative, who's saying, fuck what people voted. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's better if we put our trust in this dumbass and this garbage scow, Jeremy Corbyn, who's basically a landfill, a human landfill, one of the worst politicians we have in the world today. He's basically saying, well, that's more important to prevent the sovereignty of the British nation from getting recovered from the EU. That's more important. That's why we should, and that's really the problem that I have, and this dovetails with a different story. For those of you that know, I don't know if anybody cares here. Some of you might not give a fuck about British politics. I think it's rather important. Mega Man and Pinochet, welcome back. Pinochet or Dean Kruger says gays have the same rights as me. I can't marry a man, so see, same rights as me. I don't know what he means by that. But Pinochet says gay rights and gay marriage is a tool used by communists to divide and demoralize a society. And Mega Man says, I don't get why gays need rights. Why not human rights make? You know what? This is what I'm saying here. I don't like them, but I'm not saying I have to deny them their rights. I'm just saying why the hell do I have to care about what they don't give a fuck about my issues? Does anybody see the gays marching for me? No. So I'm not going to reciprocate, and I don't care how ridiculous that statement sounds. But those of you that are out there understand what I'm trying to say. You're under no obligation to support a bunch of pathetic losers just because they have some sort of protected status due to perceived or real persecution or whatever. Now, it doesn't mean you should go chase after them and harass them. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that at all. But But it's you know, the loud butts here talking about the gay question, but you know, the gay rights movement, they I was trying to make a rhetorical point here that they lost so many votes in all of these state ballots, state voting initiatives in I think the only one that they ever won was in Minnesota, oddly enough. And yet they pretend like they won some sort of great cultural victory or something. I'm sorry, but they didn't. And I think that personally, you know, people have a right not to care. Now, does that mean we should persecute them? I'm not saying that. But to make it seem like that's even a preferable way of life, I think I'm starting to swing the other way. I'm trying to say that their whole agenda here of promoting themselves as sort of a political bloc, that's got me objecting, because you know, you got what you wanted. Now go fuck off. Literally. Why should I care? Yeah, you've achieved everything you legally need. So therefore, why do we need to keep working for this stupid cause? Um, Denise says, if a man is gay, why does he find a boyfriend who acts like a girl? I know you have to ask them. Mega Man saying, why does it have to be separate from human rights? You guys will notice I'm not doing as many live streams because I do feel a little sicker, but I thought today I might as well do it. Um, so back to the topic, another story that I found related to the Heseltine story was that Nick Clegg, for those of you that are following British politics, has been told that he is going, or I guess it's been announced that he is going to be knighted. Now, Nick Clegg is a failure. It says the former Deputy Prime Minister and Arch Remainer will become Sir Nick in the New Year's honor list to be published on Saturday. But the 50-year-old stint in power was deemed so unpopular that he led his party to its worst election showing in 3 decades, and then he suffered the humiliation of losing his own seat 2 years later. And members of parliament said giving the gong to the Lib Dem loser would bring the honor system into further disrepute due to his campaign to block Brexit. Since playing a leading role in the defeated Remain campaign, Mr. Clegg has written a book titled How to Stop Brexit and has called for a second referendum because Brexit voters are dying off. So he's saying because senior citizens voted and they're dying, they're wrong and you have to vote again. I mean, well, you either accept the vote or you don't accept the vote. You either say the process is legitimate or you don't participate. It says he will join a growing list of Lib Dem politicians showered with gongs, despite their dramatic slump in popular. I guess the gong metaphor is used in Britain to talk about getting a knighthood or something. And then it says the party's small hall of 12 members of parliament includes 2 knights, leader Vince and Sir Ed Davey. I think Vince is Vince Cable. The 2 ex-cabinet ministers returned to parliament in June after being booted out in 2015. 2 further ex-Lib Dem ministers, Danny Alexander and Steve Webb, were also knighted but have not returned. So this is understand what I'm trying to make a point here. Just similar to the way that here in the United States, you see the media kissing Barack Obama's ass in Britain. You see the actual, I guess, the royal family, whoever gives out these honors, are kissing the ass of these people that the people have rejected. Nick Clegg was the Deputy Prime Minister of Britain. Understand that for about 5 years he was the number 2, and you know, in more ways he was the number 2 in the British government. And he was such a fuck up because this was a guy who said they're not going to go through austerity, which means budget cuts. Now, to tell you the truth, they needed austerity, but he was saying the whole time, "Oh, we're not going to cut the budget." What did he do? Cut the budget. He stood by. He never pulled out. Never call. You know, when you're in a coalition government, What you do is when you reject something that you're against within your own government, you leave, and then the government falls, and they call a new election. That's how it works in a lot of these European countries. For those of you in the U.S. that don't understand it, it's not like there's a full term. They can dissolve parliament at any time and call a new election. So this clown, he spends 5 years pretending that he's the nice face of the British government, compared to his boss, David Cameron, who was the other asshole at the head of the British government. Both of them were saying, well, we need to stay in the EU. The EU is crucial. We need to take in more immigrants. We need to continue with this universal health care. We need to, blah, 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 blah. Comes 2015, gets his ass kicked. His entire party gets wiped out. 2016, he becomes one of the lead campaigners for remaining in the European Union. They squander a tremendous lead, lose, even with a violent assassination attempt or a successful assassination of a pro-EU member of parliament by some madman who may or may not have had Brexit sympathies, and he gets booted. And during the campaign, he lied over and over and over again. He said, for example, I think the most important lie was where he said that the European Union would not try to raise its own army. Well, this year, I'll have you know that they did try to raise their own army, and what that means is that the people of Europe would technically be, they they could conceivably be occupied by a European army that's loyal to a body of unelected officials in Brussels. So think about that for a few minutes, okay? So who else is here? Oh, I see Angel and Dean are talking. Mega Man says, I really dislike Obama and I'm black, LOL. Well, white people dislike Obama and he's half white too. So I mean, don't feel special about it. Just wanted to point. I mean, he's not. It's not like he's 100% black, guys. Yeah, this whole thing where you feel ashamed to say you don't like Barack Obama. Well, maybe he doesn't like you either. I don't understand. Maybe maybe people got some sort of bulletin when Barack Obama got elected that you're not allowed to not like the president anymore. Well, I mean, what does that mean? That if you were a white person, you were supposed to like President Bush? Because obviously it wasn't the case. There were a lot of white people that didn't like President Bush. I think it's so stupid when they force you to support a politician that happens to. I'll tell you a funny story, Mega Man, since you brought this up. And thanks for joining again. I see you very frequently commenting and stuff like that. So, please continue. But that's a funny thing you bring up with the whole racial identity stuff with a politician or whatever. I remember when I was working at my old company during the 2016 race. A friend of mine said, "Oh, you're Jewish. You should support Bernie Sanders." I said, and this was an Indian guy, and I said, a liberal Indian guy, and I said, "Well, I mean, why don't you support that Bobby Jindal guy?" And we'd both been talking. We were like, we'd all known, from prior conversations. We both agreed that Bobby Jindal was kind of a phony. This was an Indian guy who was the mayor of Louisiana, and he just seemed kind of insincere and like eager not to look very Indian or something like that, trying to fit in, look more American. Pinochet says, I've seen quite a few black folks coming out and saying they dislike him. It's actually pretty awesome. Well, no, I think I disagree. I see. Yeah, I do see that there are some people that are coming out and saying, well, they dislike Barack Obama, but I also see, conversely, a lot of black people that have intensified their worship of him, and white people too, that intensify their worship of him, and that's why I do like these funny like Trump memes where the God Emperor Trump stuff. It's just funny stuff. I'm hoping it's a joke. I don't really think that I want to worship a political figure of any stripe. Nigel Farage, I would say, is probably my favorite politician worldwide, and Rand Paul would probably be a very close second. and Donald Trump is certainly, he's doing very well, I think. But it's important to remember, these guys, they don't know you personally. They could do something that you don't like, and you have to be ready to criticize them. And I hope that I've been able to show where I do disagree with Donald Trump or with any of these other figures. Um, so Denise says Brits are tired of the Muslims invasion. Yeah, I would agree. So I think there's plenty of Muslims in Britain that are tired of seeing more Muslims coming in, and I think but beyond all the other stuff, everybody wants to talk about the Sharia or whatever, which is an issue. But the other issue is that when you have large population groups flowing in under duress, these people that they may have come from a stressed area, wherever it is, Algeria, whatever the fuck you're talking about, Morocco, a country where there's a lot of social unrest. You're not importing happy people. You're importing people that are ready to cause problems because they're already, and you're not capable of dealing with them. Pinochet says, I'm seeing way more blacks talking about how they aren't going to support the Democrats anymore, waking up to who's actually racist. I am seeing more of those people. I don't think it's a ton though. I think there is more of them, but it's just not of a critical mass at the moment. So, look, the bottom line of what I'm talking about until now, we're going to switch to the Mueller investigation, is that you had here a Democratic vote in Britain, and what are the establishment doing? They're trying to validate, they're trying to perpetuate the figures of the losing side. Why is somebody who was a failed deputy prime minister, who had his party wiped out completely, who went and campaigned to remain in the EU based on complete lies and pretending that everybody who disagreed with him was an idiot, and then loses? Why does he get a knighthood in Britain, which is one of the highest civilian honors? I think the next highest honor would be getting like a title of nobility, a lordship or something, like that Lord Heseltine clown that we just talked about. Why are they giving him a knighthood? They should give him a fuck off. That's about it. So we're going to move to the Mueller investigation. Trying to go along really. Keep a nice clip here. If you are just joining us, okay? I said at the beginning, okay, there's a clip I do want you to look at, or sorry, there's a meme I want you to go to and share if you can, but at least go to on the Bold Like a Leopard page. That's facebook.com/Chef Leopard. And I want you to react to it. And I want to see exactly. And I haven't seen any reacts lately, and I want to see if Facebook is actually suppressing them. So in the chat, if you do go there, you know how to open new windows. In the chat, please let me know if you did react, because if I'm not getting these notifications, then they're definitely dicking with me. These motherfuckers. I'm not happy with you, Mark Zuckerberg, you piece of shit. You robotic motherfucker. So moving on. That was a little venting on my part. Sorry about that. So it says here that here is where the special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe stands heading into 2018. This is from CNBC. CNBC is a little more reliable than the rest of NBC because it's financial, but with the Mueller investigation, who knows? It says special counsel Robert Mueller may continue with his investigation into President Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russia far longer than the White House's plan. In conversations with friends and advisors, the president has said that the investigation would wrap up early in 2018. But experts and president suggest the probe could last well into 2018, if not longer. It says special counsel Robert Mueller may continue with his investigation into President Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russia far longer than the White House's plan. In conversations with friends and advisors, the president has said that the investigation would wrap up early in 2018. CNN reported in December, one of the president's lawyers, Ty Cobb of the Detroit Tigers, I don't know what I mean. Maybe people forgot who Ty Cobb is. But told the Washington Post in mid-November that the probe would likely finish shortly after the new year, but experts and presidents suggest the investigation could last well into 2018, if not longer. Meaning that one of the biggest clouds over Trump's nascent presidency and the Republican majority in Congress could continue to cast a pall as midterm elections approach. Robert Ray, who was independent counsel in the Whitewater investigation into former President Bill Clinton's dealings, told CNBC that he thinks the Mueller probe could last well into 2018, but hopefully concluded with major prosecutorial decisions reached before the midterm election cycle. Harry Littman, a former U.S. attorney. So Robert Ray was the person who succeeded Kenneth Starr, who was the most famous of the Clinton independent counsel prosecutors. Ultimately, Robert Ray never convicted anybody. So, you know, what exactly does that mean? That's really the question. This other guy says he predicted that the investigation could last even longer. He cited the possibility that the special counsel could pursue a convoluted money trail that could extend the inquiry into 2019. Mueller's team has reportedly sought information from Deutsche Bank about former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, while federal prosecutors in Brooklyn, New York, reportedly asked the German lender for information related to Trump aide and son-in-law Jared Kushner's family business. That sort of paper case takes painstaking forensic work before you can bring witnesses in, Littman told CNBC. Typical special counsel investigations take several years, although an analysis conducted by the news website 538 found that Mueller's is proceeding at a rapid clip compared with precedent. The special counsel's office, which declined to comment for this article, has wrapped up its interviews with White House employees, but may seek to do follow-up interviews. 4 people associated with the president, including former campaign chairman Paul Manafort and Flynn, have already been charged with crimes connected to the probe. 2 of those, Flynn and Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos, have pleaded guilty and are cooperating with investigators. What this leaves out is that none of those crimes were actually connected back to Donald Trump. They were all crimes that were, literally, the one with Flynn happened after the election, and it was lying to the FBI. So the FBI opened an investigation, and then they trapped him into lying to them about the investigation. So that's the crime that he's being accused of. The one that Paul Manafort's been indicted for happened way before he ever worked for Donald Trump in the campaign, as you probably know. And the George Papadopoulos guy lied to the FBI as well. The other crimes that he's supposedly associated with are trying to set up meetings with, keyword trying, not actually succeeding, but trying to set up meetings with representatives of Vladimir Putin during the campaign. So where is the actual crime? There's only intent, but no actual action. And it's only for somebody who's not Donald Trump. And he's not even one of the higher officials in the Trump campaign. Flynn's attorney said in March that the retired lieutenant general certainly has a story to tell. While Papadopoulos' fiance recently told ABC News the young advisor's tale will make a big difference in the investigation. Flynn's cooperation in particular could indicate that Mueller is winding up one key part of his investigation. Saul Weisenberg, who was deputy independent counsel in the Whitewater investigation, said that Flynn's cooperation with investigators may allow Mueller to complete the portion of his probe of potential collusion between Trump and Russia, quote, soon. Hard to believe that there would be criminal collusion without Flynn's knowledge, Weisenberg said. Flynn did not plead to that, and his plea deal doesn't seem to cover it. Then it says Mueller's prosecution of Manafort and his business partner Rick Gates, who were both indicted in October on charges related to unlawful financial dealings, will continue regardless of the outcome of the collusion investigation. A court date in that prosecution has been planned for May. A status report has been scheduled in the Flynn case for February. Besides collusion, the special counsel is, according to the Washington Post, also pursuing an obstruction of justice investigation related to the president's firing of former FBI director James Comey, among other possible matters. That will go fucking nowhere. Because if it is soon revealed that James Comey leaked classified information, then there is that's a for cause firing. Okay, then what are you supposed to say? That you were supposed to keep a guy that's leaking information from the FBI when he's said under oath that he's actually trying to find leakers within the FBI. Notice that since Comey was fired, and since you know since Comey was fired, and since the new FBI director was appointed, I think it was a couple months later in August, Christopher Wray, the leaking has virtually disappeared. It's become the leaking within the FBI was much worse when James Comey was the FBI director. But he used to say, he used to say in Congress, he used to say, yeah, we're trying to get some leakers, yeah. But in the meantime, he's leaking information to the press. So why would you ever trust that motherfucker? It seems like he's more of an obstructor of justice than anybody else. It says the special counsel is authorized to investigate any matters that may arise directly from the investigation, according to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's order appointing the special counsel. There are no indications that Mueller has exhausted potential leads. Well, when you see the next article, yeah, I have that up there. You'll see that it has gotten a bit ridiculous. In a sign that the investigation could be pursuing new lines of inquiry, Yahoo reported Wednesday that Republican National Committee officials in recent weeks have started fielding questions from investigators related to the political organization's digital operations. The investigation enters the new year under fire from the president, as well as subject to accusation of partisan bias from conservative commentators and lawmakers. Republicans on the Hill were outraged after the release of text messages between two former Mueller. So this is going through all the stuff that I've talked about before in other broadcasts, which we'll get to, in due course. I don't need this article to talk about it. So that's CNBC, but the article that they were kind of hinting at is this is from Business Insider, and they're saying that Mueller is reportedly zeroing in on the RNC, on the Trump campaign's data operation and the RNC. So they're trying to say, where was it? It is not surprising that federal investigators have begun to examine the possibility that Russia and the Trump campaign helped each other during the election. Yeah, well, thanks for getting to that in the third paragraph. It says, investigators have been looking into whether Russia provided the campaign with voter information stolen by Russian hackers from election databases in several states, and whether the Trump campaign helped Russia target its political ads to specific demographics and voting precincts. The general counsels for Facebook, Twitter, and Google gave enigmatic replies when asked by the House Intelligence Committee last month whether they had investigated who was mimicking who when it came to online ads promoted by both the Trump campaign and Russia during the election. Facebook said said in September that about 25% of the ads purchased by Russians during the election were geographically targeted, though many analysts have said they find it difficult to believe that foreign entities would have had the kind of granular knowledge of American politics necessary to target specific demographics and voting precincts. Now, from what I understood, the geographical targeting that was found in those ads was actually not. It was done in a very. Basically, what I understood was that they actually picked bad states to advertise in, ones that weren't even very competitive. Let me see if there's any new stuff. Looks like Dean and Pinochet are in some sort of duel or something. All right, have at it, you guys. Facebook's general counsel, Colin Stretch, paused before indicating that the committee had access to intelligence that could better contextualize the information Facebook had turned over. We've provided all relevant information on the committee And we do think it's an important function of this committee because you have access to a broader set of information than any single company will, Stretch said. And then Google and Twitter agreed with that. Investigators have long wondered whether the data mining and analysis firm Cambridge Analytica served as a link between the campaign's data operation and Russia. That scrutiny intensified following revelations that Cambridge CEO Alexander Nix reached out to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in June 2016, asking for access to Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton's stolen emails. But what they don't explain is that Julian Assange is not Russian; he's Australian. What the fuck? What drives me nuts is that people who up until 2014, let's say, they thought Julian Assange was this great hero and he exposed all the abuses of the Iraq War. Suddenly now he's Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle. They're saying, oh, he's a Russian agent or whatever. Well, with what proof do you say that? Because it's possible for other people besides Russia to hack somebody or for somebody to leak that information. It doesn't necessarily have to arrive at somebody through a hack. I mean, they've basically jumped to the conclusion well in advance. It's still unclear how much Cambridge Analytica actually did for the campaign. Trump campaign ads and aides and even current and former Cambridge employees have consistently tried to downplay its role. Parscale was asked about Cambridge during his interview with the House Intelligence Committee in October. The ranking members of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees sent him a separate letter that month asking whether his firm received information from a foreign government or foreign actor at any point during the administration. The letter was also sent to Nix and the heads of Deeproot Analytics, Target Point Consulting, and the Data Trust, firms hired by the Republican National Committee last year to bolster the Trump campaign's data operation. Deeproot accidentally leaked the sensitive personal details of roughly 198 million citizens in June, as its database was left exposed on the open web for nearly 2 weeks. The firm had stored details of about 61% of the U.S. population on an Amazon cloud server without password protection. So that's not really related to this at all, is it? Whereas Deeproot Target, so I mean that sucks. They suck. But what does this have to do with Donald Trump? Whereas the firm's letters included a line denying they had contact with any foreign government or foreign actor, Parscale's did not. In a post-election interview, Kushner told Forbes that he had been keenly interested in Facebook's micro-targeting capabilities from early on. I called somebody who works for one of the technology companies that I work with, and I had them give me a tutorial on how to use Facebook micro-targeting. Kushner said, we brought in Cambridge Analytica, he continued. I called some of my friends from Silicon Valley who were some of the best digital marketers in the world, and I asked them how to scale this stuff. We basically had to build a $400 million operation with 1,500 people operating in 50 states in 5 months to then be taken apart. We really started from scratch. So that's it. This doesn't say much. Now, let's say that Kushner is revealed to have had contacts with a foreign power or whatever. That's not collusion, okay? Even if it was to be Russia, it's not collusion to sway the race. Collusion to sway the race would mean that they somehow tampered. Look, you can bay and bark all you want, but until there's an actual crime, until there's an actual fucking crime that has been connected to Kushner or Trump, then this is bullshit. I mean, he can talk to people, he can get information from people. There's nothing illegal about it, and in fact, this type of stuff happens all the time. People share information in elections all the time. There's American political consultants are sent overseas all the time to help with elections that are, they're crucial for one party or another. One of Hillary Clinton's strategists was used by the Conservative Party in Britain just this year. Poorly. They performed awfully. But They used it, and nobody accused them of collaborating with American, meddlers in the election, which is exactly what it was. It was American meddling. So that's enough of that. A couple more articles. You have Eric Schneiderman. He's talking about the legal resistance. Eric Schneiderman, for those of you that don't know, is the Attorney General of New York, and it says here that he says 2017 was a year of legal resistance. With the tireless efforts of the talented attorneys on my staff, my office has now taken over 100 legal and administrative actions to protect the people of New York from attacks by the Trump administration. And then it says right after that, this is from the Daily Caller, who I do link, says Mueller's office retained Schneiderman's assistant in August in a bid to establish greater leverage against the president and his loyalists. Though the Constitution invests Trump with the power to pardon violations of federal crime, he cannot grant relief from state and local prosecution. Schneiderman's cooperation provides a powerful supplement to the special counsel's office, as it ensures criminal prosecutions may still proceed against any person Trump might pardon, diminishing the president's assurances to wavering supporters. So what that essentially means is, yes, Trump, if he's convicted, let's say by the state of New York, of a crime, that would be a major problem. However, it can still be overturned in a federal court. And the other issue that we have to speak about here is, look, an attorney general is an elected official. Yes, he can have a political agenda. What he cannot do is use his office as attorney general, as the lead prosecutor in a state. He can't use it as a platform to pursue his own personal vendetta against, a political opponent or for a political cause. It's just, I mean, that there are policies that he can enact, such as if you're somebody who's fiercely anti-drug, you can toughen prosecution for drug dealing charges. I mean, that's one example. But you can't target individuals consistently. Now that would apply likewise to people in the mafia, even. You're not necessarily supposed to prosecute an individual and then basically shadow them all of their lives and then try to basically put them in prison at any cost. That's not really the way the American justice system is supposed to work. Now it has on occasion done that. It's called people, public enemy number one. I mean, for people like spree killers, John Dillinger, for example, they used to put people's faces on wanted posters and stuff like that. But those were wanted criminals, and there was a crime that was named. Now, in this case, there is no crime that was named. So basically, within just Eric Schneiderman's participation, you're talking about somebody who embodies the conflict of interest here, because you're the attorney general of a state. You're not supposed to be focusing so much effort on the prosecution and attack against one individual, even if that individual is a high official of government, the president of the United States. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Check that article out. It is really just ridiculous to what lengths they're going to go. Now, the last story we're going to talk about today before we close is James Baker, who was the suspected leaker of the Comey memo and other things. It says, this is from Zero Hedge. I believe I shared the link in the description. It says, FBI fires suspected leaker and Comey ally James Baker. It says, just hours after FBI Director Andrew McCabe delivered private testimony to the House Intelligence Committee, his boss, FBI Director Christopher Wray, announced that the Bureau's top lawyer would be leaving his post in an attempt to bring in new blood, quote unquote, new blood to an agency whose reputation has been hopelessly compromised by revelations that the agent's partisan bias may have influenced the two high-profile investigations involving President Donald Trump and his former campaign rival, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. As the Washington Post reported, the FBI's top lawyer, James Baker, is being reassigned. Washington Post says Baker's removal is part of Wray's effort to assemble his own team of senior advisors while he tries to defuse allegations of partisanship that have plagued the Bureau in recent months. Reports published over the summer said Baker was the top suspect in an interagency leak investigation, as reported back in July. Three sources with knowledge of the investigation told Circa that Baker is a top suspect in an ongoing leak investigation, but Circa has not been able to confirm the details of what national security information or material was allegedly leaked. A federal law enforcement official set with knowledge of ongoing internal investigations in the Bureau told Circa that the Bureau is scouring for leakers and there's been a lot of investigations. The revelation comes as the Trump administration has ramped up efforts to contain leaks both within the White House and within its own national security apparatus. The news of the staff's shakeup comes as Trump and his political allies have promised to rebuild the FBI and to make it bigger and better than ever following its disgraceful conduct in the Trump probe. Baker played a key role in the agency's handling of major cases and policy debates in recent years, including the FBI's unsuccessful battle with Apple over the growing use of encryption in cell phones. Wray has, of course, resisted Congress's push to learn more about senior agent Peter Strzok, who was a key player in both the Clinton investigation and the Trump probe. Strzok was exposed last month for exchanging anti-Trump texts with FBI attorney Lisa Page, with whom he was having an affair. Sorry, guys. Strzok played important roles with both investigations. Later, it was revealed that his edits to Clinton's exoneration letter went further than had been previously disclosed. According to Washington Post, Baker told colleagues he will be taking on other duties at the FBI. Unsurprisingly, the Jeff Bezos-owned paper described Baker as one of the most trusted, longest-serving national security officials in the U.S. He has served as the head of the FBI's official Office of General Counsel for several years. Of course, Washington Post says Baker's reassignment has nothing to do with the leak investigation, which ended without any publicly disclosed findings. It's also unclear what exactly Baker was suspected of leaking. Baker is reportedly very close to former FBI Director James B. Comey, who asked Baker to be his general counsel. The two men were colleagues at the Justice Department, and when they were out of government at Bridgewater Associates, an investment management firm. It's notable that Baker's departure comes 6 months after the leaking scandal and just days after Attorney General Jeff Sessions reportedly asked DOJ prosecutors to begin asking FBI agents about the details of the Uranium One investigation, a sign that the Bureau is finally moving to address concerns expressed by Republican lawmakers about the bias that may have favored Clinton. Baker's head is the third to roll in the house cleaning that saw the FBI sanction Strzok and Bruce Orr, a senior DOJ official who reportedly concealed his wife's ties to opposition research firm Fusion GPS, the firm that supervised the creation of the famous Trump dossier. I'm almost done with this article, guys. It was also revealed recently that Baker's name is on a list of DOJ officials who are expected to receive a subpoena to testify before the House Intelligence Committee. Strzok and Orr's names are also on that list. If that's any indication of what's to come, we doubt that this will be the last time we hear Baker's name. Now, a lot of information to process there. What's the takeaway here? Look, I was thinking about this. I came home. I was shoveling snow. It was freezing fucking cold outside. It was colder than a snowman's testicles. And for some reason, I was, my mind wanders while I'm listening to the radio while doing, shoveling the snow. And what I was thinking was this, that, with this Mueller investigation, okay, what the Democrats and their FBI allies are thinking of now is, well, we just have to keep probing and keep raising questions and whatever, and we're gonna continue and well, now the FBI itself, the people in key positions, the sympathetic people are kind of leaving. So it's a good question whether the FBI will start to change its attitude towards cooperating with Congress, cooperating with Judicial Watch and other similar bodies that are trying to bring a lot of this stuff to light. So we could see a shift in attitude. The other thing that's going to happen, you might know that James Comey. Let me see if I can find it. So James Comey is writing a book called The Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership, which is expected to come out on May 1st, 2018. Now, it's ironic that that's coming out on the communist holiday of May 1st, but the head of the FBI. I can't stand Brian Stelter's voice. Look, what they're going to try to do is they're trying to run their own PR campaign. The Democrats and some of their Republican allies within the FBI and whatever, and they're all trying to say, well, for example, one of the funniest things that they do is that they'll call Comey a Boy Scout, which he was, Eagle Scout, I think it was, and say that he's a registered Republican. It doesn't fucking matter. He could be a registered member of the AARP. I don't give a shit, because he's a dirty piece of motherfucking garbage. And these people are Bush Republicans. Anybody who says, "Oh, this is a Republican, how could they possibly conspire against Donald Trump?" Well, you guys know that the dossier, as you always remind people, was started by a Republican primary opponent of Donald Trump. He's not exactly loved within the traditional wing of the Republican Party, the centrist corporate wing of the Republican Party. There's no significance to the head of the FBI, James Comey, being a registered Republican. It's the biggest. What the hell does it even mean? The Republican Party doesn't even mean anything. Okay, having an R after your name is basically useless. Now the news shows will never admit that. Dave Murphy says Marky Ramone. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. I love that band. I should listen to the Ramones a little more often. I'm kind of lost with the chat. I haven't been paying attention, but I hope you guys are having fun. Welcome to Dave Murphy again. Good friend of mine. Good YouTube friend. We've never met in real life, from Iowa. Now, why am I bringing up the whole Comey bullshit with the book and whatever? Well, what they're going to try to do, and what they have been doing, is they're going to try to build up these FBI people as the principled opposition, the real integrity of the state against this Trump barbarism, like he's some sort of Attila the Hun or something. And they're going to try to do it using things like Comey's book, possibly books by what is with fucking Google censoring Dade Murphy's chat? Please, Google, fuck off. Look, there's an issue here where these people, they have their reputations. They claim their reputation is being dragged through the mud by the conservative media. Well, what you've done by using this dossier is you've besmirched somebody else's reputation too. So you've gotten your own comeuppance. And these people who are supposed to be, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, this Bruce Orr guy, this Peter Strzok idiot, Thunderstruck. You have who's the other guy? Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, and now this James Baker guy. Well, people aren't supposed to know their names in the media. Now they've gotten themselves into the position where it's been revealed in the media, whether it's because they've been leaked by the conservatives, or because they've gotten themselves into that position. Now some of those people have been revealed, but yeah, Dade, though, I brought it up because YouTube earlier, while you commented something, you said because they're dicks, and they censored it, and I had to show it. That's it. So that's the only reason I mentioned your name a couple of minutes ago. But in the chat. I wonder if there's a way for me to share the chat on the screen. So, I guess not. So, I know you guys are having the way to go. Don't give up, Dade. Just keep on trucking, man. So anyway, I'm trying to close here, but look, what they're trying to do is they're waging a PR campaign. Look, they censored. They did censor it. They did censor it, Dade. They did censor it. What a distraction! I gotta minimize this window. So they're waging this media campaign using things like Comey's book or whatever. And who's to say that Andrew McCabe won't come out with a book? But they could write their books and then put in whatever they want. But what will really be the telling question is, why is it that when they go and testify before Congress, so many of these people they plead the fifth, or they have memory problems. In McCabe's case, for example, last week he was unable to answer the question of how the FBI acquired the Steele dossier. Now, look, I understand that working at the FBI as the deputy director, you may pull long hours. I also know that it's very well impossible that Andrew McCabe did not know that this would be a topic of conversation. It's been widely discussed all over the world now, but especially in the U.S., especially in Washington D.C., that people are wondering: was it bought? Did the FBI buy a dossier from a dirty opposition researcher, a former British intelligence agent? Did they also hire the guy in order to perform services by them against Donald Trump? Now, that's not something that happens every day at the FBI, and it would be. Now, he had to play dumb and say, "Well, I don't know that this ever happened," or whatever. But if receipts come out, or if other indications come out that that's exactly what happened, then he can write the sexiest book in the world, but nobody's gonna give a fuck, because it's everybody knows that it's all lies. Everybody knows that it's omissions. Everybody knows that it's just him trying to cover his ass and pretend like he was doing the right thing. Well, if you would have done the right thing, you wouldn't be in this mess. The right thing would have been to, I mean, if in McCabe's case, when the Hillary Clinton investigation came up, he should have recused himself then and said, I don't want any of this shit. I want completely. I don't want to be involved. I have associations with the Clinton campaign or with Clinton associates. I don't want to be involved in that. In Mueller's case, maybe he got suckered into it. But with Comey, you're talking about a person who has basically proven that if he is not a liar, then he must be the most self-unaware FBI director in the history of of the FBI. He is basically a blind man leading the blind. So that's all I have for today. Let me see. One last look at the chat. I know you guys were going buck wild. No, that's about it. So, look, thanks for coming. Thanks for staying. And thank you most of all for going. And, somebody I know really like to say that all the time. But let me see. Pinochet, last comment, but it looks like a good comment. Brett Kimberlin. Who is Brett Kimberlin? Let me look right now. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. Thank you very much. What? Perpetrator of the Speedway bombings. It looks like he's some sort of prankster or something. Well, maybe it was the guy who kind of wrote the. I think what he means is that he wrote some of the more salacious shit in the dossier, which would be very funny because from the 10 seconds I was reading that, it looked like this guy is a real goofball, which would be pretty funny. But yeah, thanks for staying. I have to go. It's been really nice. We'll do this again. Please comment below. Please check out my Facebook page and like the publication again. Let me just put it up one more time, just so you know what I'm talking about. So the Facebook link is in the chat, and geez, this is the one. So you can see that. So go to my page. This should be the first publication on it. It says, pick the favorite new gender pronoun of 2017. You got it, mit, twit, or shit. What else do you need? So that's it. Have a good night, everybody, and God bless. And we'll talk later.